Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so today is my day off from work, and so to not wake up the others in my house, I am on IG live in my car, and it's cold outside. I mean, it's Florida and it's 55 degrees, but that's cold and freezing to me. So I'm out in the car with my heat on in my car. And so I'm going to read today from my car. And today we're reading Genesis 30 and 31. And so we're going to read Genesis 30 and 31 and see what God says today. I really believe that God has been speaking each and every day that we've been reading the Bible, and I'm excited to see what he says each day. Like each day after I get off the live, I go back and I highlight and underline all the stuff that I noticed while I was reading, because I can't do it while I'm on IG live, and just kind of allow God to speak to me in that way through his word. So let's get started. I'll pray us in and then we'll get started. Great God, I thank you for this day, Lord. I thank you for the opportunity and privilege of your word. I pray that you would speak to us through your word. I pray that you would give us eyes to see, ears to hear, and a heart to receive what you're going to implant in us, God. Make our hearts great soil, good soil, Lord God, for the seeds you're planting in us. We give you all the glory and all the honor in Jesus' mighty name. Amen. All right, guys. So chapter 30, it has no heading on it, but I'm assuming it's a continuation from the last chapter of 29, where the last heading said Jacob's many children. So Genesis 30 says, when Rachel saw that she wasn't having any children for Jacob, she became jealous of her sister. She pleaded with Jacob, give me children or I'll die. Then Jacob became furious with Rachel. Am I God? He asked. He's the one who has kept you from having children. Then Rachel told him, take my maid Bilhah and sleep with her. She will bear children for me, and through her I can have a family too. So Rachel gave her servant Bilhah to Jacob as a wife, and he slept with her. Bilhah became pregnant and presented him with a son. Rachel named him Dan, for she said, God has vindicated me. He has heard my request and given me a son. Then Bilhah became pregnant again and gave Jacob a second son. Rachel named him Naphtali, for she said, I have struggled hard with my sister, and I'm winning. Meanwhile, Leah realized that she wasn't getting pregnant anymore, so she took her servant Zilpah and gave her to Jacob as a wife. Soon Zilpah presented him with a son. Leah named him Gad, for she said, how fortunate am I. Then Zilpah gave Jacob a second son, and Leah named him Asher, for she said, what joy is mine. Now the other women will celebrate with me. One day during the wheat harvest, Reuben found some mandrakes growing in a field and brought them to his mother Leah. Rachel begged Leah, please give me some of your son's mandrakes. But Leah angrily replied, wasn't it enough that you stole my husband? Now will you steal my son's mandrakes too? Rachel answered, I will let Jacob sleep with you tonight if you give me some of the mandrakes. Normally we see women being treated like property, but Jacob is the one in the story being treated like property, and this is just interesting. And he seems to be the one having all the fun. I mean, I don't know if it was fun for him, but it seems like it's fun. Everybody's throwing women at him. So that evening, as Jacob was coming home from the fields, Leah went out to meet him. You must come and sleep with me tonight, she said. I have paid for you with some mandrakes that my son found. I gotta find out what mandrakes are, because they have to be amazing. So that night he slept with Leah, and God answered Leah's prayers. She became pregnant again and gave birth to a fifth son for Jacob. She named him Issachar, for she said, God has rewarded me for giving my servant to my husband as a wife. Then Leah became pregnant again and gave birth to a sixth son for Jacob. She named him Zebulun. For she said, God has given me a good reward. Now my husband will treat me with respect, for I have given him 6 sons. Later she gave birth to a daughter and named her Dinah. Dinah. Then God remembered Rachel's plight and answered her prayers by enabling her to have children. She became pregnant and gave birth to a son. God has removed my disgrace, and she named him Joseph, for she said, "May the Lord add yet another son to my family." Jacob's wealth increases. Soon after Rachel had given birth to Joseph, Jacob said to Laban, "Please release me so I can go home to my own country. Let me take my wives and children, for I have earned them by serving, and let me be on my way. You certainly know how hard I have worked for you." "Please listen to me," Laban replied. "I have become wealthy, for the Lord has blessed me because of you. Tell me how much I owe you. Whatever it is, I'll pay it." Jacob replied, "You know how hard I've worked for you, and how your flocks and herds have grown under my care. You had little indeed before I came, but your wealth has increased enormously. The Lord has blessed you through everything I've done. But now, what about me? When can I start providing for my own family?" "What wages do you want?" Laban asked again. Jacob replied, "Don't give me anything. Just do this one thing, and I'll continue to tend and watch over your flocks. Let me inspect your flocks today and remove all the sheep and goats that are speckled or spotted, along with all the black sheep. Give these to me as my wages. In the future, when you check on the animals you have given me as my wages, you'll see that I've been honest. If you find in my flock any goats without speckles or spots, or any sheep that are not black, you will know that I have stolen from you." "All right," Laban replied, "it will be as you say." But that very day Laban went out and removed the male goats that were streaked and spotted, all the female goats that were speckled and spotted and had white patches, and all the black sheep. He placed them in the care of his own sons, who took them a 3 days' journey from where Jacob was. Meanwhile, Jacob stayed and cared for the rest of Laban's flock. Laban is like the biggest deceiver. It says that, I remember that Jacob's name means deceiver, but Laban is like, he's so shady. Like, he's so shady. Then Jacob took some fresh branches from poplar, almond, and plane trees and peeled off strips of bark, making white streaks on them. Then he placed these peeled branches in watering troughs where the flocks came to drink, for that was where they mated. And when they mated in front of the white streaked branches, they gave birth to young that were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Jacob separated those lambs from Laban's flock, and at mating time he turned the flock to face Laban's animals that were streaked or black. This is how he built his own flock instead of increasing Laban's. Whenever the stronger females were ready to mate, Jacob would place the peeled branches in the watering troughs in front of them. Then they would mate in front of the branches. "Hey, Aish, morning." But he didn't do this with the weaker ones, so the weaker lambs belonged to Laban, and the stronger ones were Jacob's. As a result, Jacob became very wealthy with large flocks of sheep and goats, female and male servants, and many camels and donkeys. Jacob flees from Laban, but Jacob soon learned that Laban's sons were grumbling about him. Jacob has robbed our father of everything," they said. "He has gained all his wealth at our father's expense." And Jacob began to notice a change in Laban's attitude towards him. Then the Lord said to Jacob, "Return to the land of your father and grandfather, and to your relatives there, and I will be with you." So Jacob called Rachel and Leah out to the field where he was watching his flock. He said to them, "I have noticed that your father's attitude toward me has changed, but the God of my father has been with me. You know how hard I've worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times, but God has not allowed him to do me any harm." And this is just an example of like God, of someone being deceitful, shady, Like Laban, switched out his wives. He told him he could have the spotted and speckled animals, and then he goes and takes them all out of the flock. Like, he was just being so shady, and God still blesses Jacob despite like all the shadiness. So it says chapter 31 verse 6. You know how hard I've worked for your father, but he has cheated me, changing my wages 10 times. But God has not allowed him to do me any harm. God has not allowed him to do me any harm. That's a word. For if he said, the speckled animals will be your wages, the whole flock began to produce speckled young. And when he changed his mind and said, the striped animals will be your wages, then the whole flock produced striped young. In this way, God has taken your father's animals and given them to me. One time during the mating season, I had a dream and saw that the male goats mating with the females were streaked, speckled, and spotted. Then in my dream, the angel of God said to me, Jacob, and I replied, yes, here I am. The angel said, look up, and you will see that only the streaked, speckled, and spotted males are mating with the females of your flock. For I have seen how Laban has treated you. I am the God who appeared to you at Bethel, the place where you anointed the pillar of stone and made your vow to me. Now get ready and leave this country and return to the land of your birth. Rachel and Leah responded, that's fine with us. We won't inherit any of our father's wealth anyway. He has reduced our rights to those of foreign women. And after he sold us, he wasted the money you paid him for us. All the wealth God has given you from our father, legally belongs to us and our children. So go ahead and do whatever God has told you. So Jacob put his wives and children on camels, and he drove all his livestock in front of him. He packed all the belongings he had acquired in Paddan Aram and set out for the land of Canaan, where his father Isaac lived. At the time they left, Laban was some distance away, shearing his sheep. Rachel stole her father's household idols and took them with her. Jacob outwitted Laban the Aramean, for they set out secretly and never told Laban they were leaving. So Jacob took all his possessions with him and crossed the Euphrates River, heading to the hill country of Gilead. Laban pursues Jacob. 3 days later, Laban was told that Jacob had fled. So he gathered a group of his relatives and set out in hot pursuit. He caught up with Jacob 7 days later in the hill country of Gilead. But the previous night God had appeared to Laban the Aramean in a dream and told him, I'm warning you, leave Jacob alone. Laban caught up with Jacob as he was camped in the hill country of Gilead. And he set up his camp not far from Jacob's. What do you mean by deceiving me like this? That's so funny. Laban is such a deceiver, and he goes, how do you deceive me like this? Okay. So Laban demanded, how dare you drag my daughters away like prisoners of war? Why did you slip away secretly? Why did you deceive me? And why didn't you say you wanted to leave? He did say he wanted to leave. Gosh, I can't. I would have, and this is how I read the Bible, guys. Just be having all types of commentary. And so why didn't you say you wanted to leave? I would have given you a farewell feast with singing and music, accompanied by tambourines and harps. Why didn't you let me kiss my daughters and grandchildren and tell them goodbye? You have acted very foolishly. I could destroy you, but the God of your father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. Hi, Denise. I hope that's Denise. But the God of my father appeared to me last night and warned me, leave Jacob alone. I can understand your feeling that you must go and your intense longing for your father's home. But why have you stolen my gods? I'm reading from the NLT version. Oh yeah. I think I said that before, but yeah, I'm reading from the NLT version, the Wayfinding Bible. So this Bible, it says helping you navigate the Word of God. So it has like its own different plans within the Bible. So yeah, I really love the NLT version and the Amplified version. So let me see. So I'm reading Genesis 31 and I'm on verse 30. So this is Laban talking. He said, I can understand your feeling that you must go. Yeah, the NLT is really very plain English. so that you can understand like everything. So I really started understanding the Bible once I got an NLT Bible. So I went from like King James Version, I got an NIV Bible, and then the NLT. And then the Amplified takes it like another step, and it breaks down like individual words within verses. So it kind of, it's like I need to know like what certain words mean, why they're in the verse that they're in, that type of thing. So this has really helped me to understand the Bible. The NLT was a version I had for about 6-7 years, and that's what really helped me to understand the Bible. So verse 30, I can understand your feeling that you must go, and your intense longing for your father's home. But why have you stolen my gods? I rushed away because I was afraid, Jacob answered. I thought you would take my daughters from me by force. But as for your gods, see if you can find them, and let the person who has taken them die. And if you find anything else that belongs to you, identify it before all these relatives of ours, and I will give it back. But Jacob did not know that Rachel had stolen the household idols. Laban went first into Jacob's tent to search there, then into Leah's, and then the tents of the 2 servant wives, but he found nothing. Finally, he went into Rachel's tent. But Rachel had taken the household items and hidden them in her camel saddle, and now she was sitting on them. When Laban had thoroughly searched out her tent without finding them, she said to her father, Please, sir, forgive me if I don't get up for you. I'm having my monthly period. So Laban continued his search, but he could not find the household idols. Then Jacob became very angry, and he challenged Laban. What's my crime? He demanded. What have I done wrong to make you chase after me as though I were a criminal? You have rummaged through everything I own. Now show me what you found that belongs to you. Set it out here in front of us before our relatives for all to see. Let them judge between us. For 20 years I have been with you, caring for your flocks. In all that time, your sheep and goats never miscarried. In all those years, I never used a single ram of yours for food. If any were attacked and killed by wild animals, I never showed you the carcass and asked you to reduce the count of your flock. No, I took the loss myself. You made me pay for every stolen animal, whether it was taken in broad daylight or in the dark of night. I worked for you through the scorching heat of the day and through cold and sleepless nights. Yes, for 20 years I slaved in your house. Sheesh. And he was only supposed to work for 7 years. I worked for 14 years earning your 2 daughters, and then 6 more years for your flock. And you changed my wages 10 times. In fact, if the God of my father had not been on my side, the God of Abraham and the fearsome God of Isaac, you would have sent me away empty-handed. But God has seen your abuse in my hard work. That is why he appeared to you last night and rebuked you. Man, that's good. That is good. Jacob's treaty with Laban. Then Laban replied to Jacob, These women are my daughters, these children are my grandchildren, and these flocks are my flocks. In fact, everything you see is mine. But what can I do now about my daughters and their children? So come, let's make a covenant, you and I, and it will become a witness to our commitment. So Jacob took a stone and set it up as a monument. Then he told his family members, Gather some stones. So they gathered stones and piled them in a heap. Then Jacob and Laban sat down beside the pile of stones to eat a covenant meal. To commemorate the event, Jacob called the place Jegar Sadadutha, which means witness pile in Aramaic. And Jacob called it Gilead, which means witness pile in Hebrew. Then Laban declared, This pile of stones will stand as a witness to remind us of the covenant we have made today. This explains why it was called Gilead, witness pile, but it was also called Mizpah, which means watchtower. For Laban say, May the Lord keep watch between us to make sure that we keep this covenant when we are out of each other's sight. If you mistreat my daughters, or if you marry other wives, God will see it, even if no one else does. He is a witness to this covenant between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see this monument I have set between us. See this pile of stones, Laban continued, and see the monument I have set between us. They stand between us as a witness of our vows. I will never pass this pile of stones to harm you, and you must never pass these stones or this mountain to harm me. I call on the God of our ancestors, the God of your grandfather Abraham, and the God of my grandfather Nahor, to serve as a judge between us. So Jacob took an oath before the fearsome God of his father Isaac to respect the boundary line. Then Jacob offered a sacrifice to God there on the mountain and invited everyone to a covenant feast. After they had eaten, they spent the night on the mountain. Laban got up early the next morning, and he kissed his grandchildren and his daughters and blessed them. Then he left and returned home. That was good. So many takeaways. So I can even see in this, like with Laban or Jacob working for Laban and all of the hard labor that he had to do, but he stayed faithful in his assignment, and God literally like fought on his behalf and also made him wealthy despite Laban's trying to, keep Jacob down. Like, God still made him wealthy in his own way. So this is just a good example of staying faithful when it seems like, Laban was really trying to keep him down. And he was only supposed to be there 7 years, and he ended up being there 20 years, 14 years more than he was supposed to be, or 13 years more. And God blessed him for his faithfulness. So this, for me, is just a lesson in being faithful to the assignment, whether it's where you're working or somewhere where you're serving in church, and allowing God to be your rewarder in any situation. So that was today's reading, Genesis 30 and 31. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I pray that God speaks to you through his word. And I pray that you all have a blessed day. All right. See y'all tomorrow on the 11th day. Bye.